So if you want the straightforward answer to the question, why is your hair particle system flickering, the answer is, in your hair particle system, child particles change it from interpolation to simple, and that will fix your problem. If you want to know more, stick with this live stream. And what I'm going to try and do is put timestamps so that it's not like a big mess for anybody to navigate. Okay, let me start with what I want to show. So today's day on the code. By the way, this is December 24th, 2024. It is Christmas Eve, so 9:26 p.m. and I was supposed to start this like half an hour back, but I spent a lot of time trying to make the thumbnail, which I'm thinking now is this like my overthinking mind is going into various tangents, so I need to keep the thumbnail towards the end, because or maybe like way in the beginning. Anyway, so that's where we are at, and there was a lot of things I had to do today, primarily this video that I worked on. So where is this whole hair particle system coming from? If I go into After Effects, if you see this timeline here, you see this thing here at the bottom. I've made a simple hair particle simulation like so, as coming like that. Now I'll make a new composition here so it's easier for you to understand what I mean, and I will take all these renders that I've done, 6 of them, and drag them here, and what we'll try and do is space them out so you can see all of them, and we can scale all of them down. So this is 3, I'm gonna put 3 here, this is 2, 2, 3, 4, and then there's 5. So I play all of these. You hit caps lock and then play, so it caches it in. The stream's current bitrate is less. How do you fix this? I don't know. Okay, anyway, so now we have that in. I'm gonna turn caps lock off and see. Why is it not playing? Anyway, if I scrub through, well, that is sad. It's just not playing. After Effects just won't play back. Let me do one thing. I will just turn it off and then start it again. It's fine, technical difficulties keep coming.
Spider bristles, however.
Okay, so I hope things are still here. Right, so what you see right now is all these renders, one thing that is common is they're all flickering. Okay, so you see the part where even the collision is not happening. Let me show you my Blender file so you understand what it is that we've done. Bristle flex, where is that? I literally had that file open right now. I can't find it at the moment. Anyway, what we did is we had a cube I was going through with hair dynamics enabled on these meshes. Man, this live stream is not going anywhere. So many things I'm doing is just not working. I kind of planned how this would go, but it's kind of not working. Anyway, there was this flickering issue, right? How do we fix that? In order to do that, I had to show how I did these multiple renders, and I tweaked some settings in every single render. But what I'll have to do is I'll have to just give me a minute. I'll have to find where that particular, this is the scene with hair dynamics. If I turn the backdrop off, if I don't save this, what happens? Okay, let me just pause. I will get back. Where is that? I'll get it, don't worry. So blend 1. This is the dreaded file which doesn't have it. Okay, wait, was it a collection here? Bristles. Got it. Finally. So this is how I had made the collision effect, right? So we have hair particles enabled on this. There is this cube here that goes up, and the cube itself has, okay, let me see if we're making sense at the moment. I'm gonna come here with the cube selected. If you come here into your physics, I've applied a collision to the cube with these settings. Let's jump back up, and with these, right, these hair particle systems, this is our main concern. So I'm going to come back to hair particles, and we're going to see we have hair dynamics enabled. This is the main checkbox. Quality is at 12, doesn't really matter. I've experimented with all of these, which is why I'm saying you increase the bump up the quality, it will still flicker. You know, this thing will still keep happening, like where before the box has come and hit. See, during that, if it's flickering, it's fine because I'm trying to go for that effect. What is happening is before the box has come, it is flickering, and then after the box has gone, it is flickering. Okay, so I tried a lot of things that I tried. Let me show you. So these are the things that I tried in every successive render. So the third one, I was like, maybe I have to increase the sample count. You cannot see my screen. So in the third one, I increased the sample count to 500. I turned on fast G approximation. I played with the hair render amount, rebake it, bake it, rebake it. Transparent bounces, I thought maybe it's the light settings that has to be changed. Uncheck I did all these things. Remove single light source, replace with just an HDRI. Maybe it's the light thing, because again, And throughout, what was happening is in the viewport, right? If you see here, why is this so dark? But anyway, in the viewport, if I play this, oh, there's a little bit of movement here. But for the most part, it is kind of stable in the viewport. So one important thing that I anyway learned is you want to take all of these hair particles. Okay, you want to come here, and when you come down here into your field weights, you want to take all these field weights, not this gravity, all these field weights, and turn them down to 0. This does have an impact, even though you don't have wind and turbulence and all these forces in your scene. You want to do this. Okay, that's one thing. This is only when you're enabling hair dynamics. Okay, this is a very specific situation. You want to do that, and you want to come into cache, you want to delete the bake and then bake it again. However, the most important part is you want to come into your children here, and interpolated. What interpolated does is it looks at 2 points, and then what it does is it tries to fill in the strands between those 2 points. So you can take, let's say, 2 and have 20 hair strands in between, which is great for like static renders. However, if you want to do hair dynamics stuff, which is where I was stuck at, and I was having that flickering, that interpolation causes all those flickers to happen, which you obviously don't want. So it's not the sample count, it's not the light, it's none of those things, it's not the denoising. So many forums are talking about these things. It is changing this children setting. Okay, so you want to come in here and make interpolated to simple. Now some wacky things are going to happen straight away. The moment you make it interpolated, so this was interpolated to make it simple, some things changed here, which is fine. You can come in here and play with the settings, but it has to be interpolated. I'm going to select this, make it simple here, and then now with this selected, I'm going to come in here and bake it. And this selected, I'm going to bake it. So now when you render this out, you will see even in the viewport, you will notice, because we've taken the field weights and everything down. Ignore this growing part, that's a separate animation that I made in this file itself. But once you here, there is no flickering happening. So that was the first part. I had to document this, kind of like a way, roundabout way, but I'm learning this streaming thing. It's not easy. It's not easy to do everything first take, but I'm learning, and we'll certainly get there at some point. So a good thing is nobody's watching us, it just helps me with that little assurity that it's okay to mess up, and I have been messing up here. Anyway, that was the first thing that I wanted to show. Then again, my AE timeline, I'm gonna just go ahead and do a regular in the code session now, because this is kind of hurt my morale to a great extent. So we'll come back here, I'm gonna just turn these off. So I will play this timeline. I played this yesterday as well. These are those AI generated clips that I've added in order to tell the story that I'm telling. What I want to show is I worked on this entire Blender scene today, which is where the reveal is happening over here. So this Blender scene, there's a brush in the middle, there's fog in the start, and then we're coming in, we're like doing a slow zoom in. So it's a reveal kind of thing. I've added fog for that cinematic effect. Then over here we're doing these two things. This above thing, that spiral kind of thing, I had done during the launch, which was like I think November or December last year. No, I don't think so. It's March this year, March 2024, something like that, February, March. So I don't know, I'll probably make a tutorial on how I did that. A lot of trial and error went into it, a lot of learning came from it. So that I kept at the top and the bottom, and then I made one more scene. So I made 3 proper scenes in Blender today, rendered them out. This again is using a backdrop, straight up backdrop from BlendKit, which is a beautiful site for any 3D artist, because it just gives you such a strong starting point in terms of background, in terms of lighting, everything. Is just place my brushes here. Okay, so that's the 2 timelines: BlendKit subscription, flow frames, and the laptop workflow. So how I basically work is I have a dual system, my main system, and then I have a laptop which is equally powerful, has an RTX 4060 graphic card. So I have both these systems connected through Wi-Fi, that is, they're on the same network. And what that does is I can open if I'm working on Blender on my system, I can open that particular blend file inside my laptop and render the Blender file there. and I don't even have to copy things from laptop back. The destination of the output I simply selected from the network to my system. So while I'm working here on another scene, like for example I'm working on this other scene, in the background I'm rendering on my laptop, I'm rendering this particular scene. So that simultaneous pipeline is very important. And how I render is I render skipping every frame. So for example I will show you one of my renders. These are all the bristle flex was me trying to figure the flickering part. But if you see reveal here, the reveal one, this is what I got out from Blender, right? So I rendered every, with step of 1 you render every other frame. So if you were to put this together, it would be something like this. Because I'm rendering at a very high resolution at like 3000 pixels something, to get it like sharp and crisp. So you see 1, 3, 5, 7. What you do is you open this free software called Flow Frames. Okay, you browse for the folder here and you select that folder where you have these, and then here what you do is you put 12.5 into, so basically my timeline is always running at 25 fps, so half of that you put it here, and what it does is it simply interpolates it using AI and gives you this, where now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, you have those interpolated frames in between. So essentially you cut your render time into half. That is something which is very important, because all these, especially when rendering in 4K and everything, rendering it becomes like a very intensive process to get through. So that is my Notion. 7 tabs open, I don't know where is Notion. So that's that. Phoenix black plus adding to library. So this Phoenix golden I had already made, but for black I just took that same one, changed the material to black, added the SensorProx logo at the front. I don't know what to document here. So that's pretty much it. In the morning today before starting, I was working on an OBS script using Lua, where what I want to essentially do is, while I'm streaming, I wanted to be able to press a hotkey, and what that will do is that will take the timestamp of the current wherever the stream is. Like right now it's 1717, so I'll take a snapshot of that 1717 and store it somewhere, and towards the end of the stream I will have a bunch of these, which are basically my timestamps for like chapter markers. Copy that and just paste it in the description of the YouTube live stream. So that is all that I had to document. Let me just go through these Blender files, so there's something more you can get out of it. This is very simple. I've added, okay, let me show the more brushes file. That is very interesting. Yep, more brushes file. This is where all my brushes are. So if you look at this, you have all of these brushes, and this is basically your master. You cannot see my screen. What else have I been showing? Have I been showing something on my screen? What was I showing? Flow frames. Did I show flow frames with my face on? I can't check. Okay, Flow Frames is a free software. Over here you put half of your frame rate, and then you get, I don't know from where I should show back again. Wow, this live stream is turning out to be such a disaster. I don't know if I should keep it or just delete it. Yeah, I guess I can just delete it, or maybe I should just keep it, because there's definitely something important that I learned, and I want to be able to document that. But the presentation has just been all over the place. I don't know why. There is a bit of instability inside, which is just, it's just that I just have like drink some water because I need to calm down. Like 20 minutes into the stream. Again, my idea behind doing this live stream was so that I do not have to edit the video. let's see. So yeah, that's what I was trying to do, the scripting thing. I was going to show you the more brushes file. So this has all the variations of the brushes. So we start with, there is naturals. There are these different brushes that I've modeled, each one of them having their hair particle system. Okay, then there is kids. Just all these others, I've put them in the same exact location, because by the time I was rendering it in a different way. Then super sensitive, there is pink, this blue. Modeling this was such a task, and I think the original is not in here. It is. So yeah, there's I spent days trying to model this brush exactly how it should be, using like subdivision, and getting the shape was such a massive task, but we somehow did it. Then unicorn, again same thing, having to make this shape on the grip. I mean, like I don't know how, I don't even remember how I made it, but like yeah, many trial and error rounds to get this shape right. So that's unicorn in green and red, same thing but in a different color. And then there's ultra smooth, which is the brushes I used in the previous video that we made. And then there was Phoenix, which were done during the launch. We had Phoenix gold, I duplicated it to make Phoenix black. Okay, and then what you do is you basically come in here, select these, right click mark as asset, and when you do that, comes in here, and then you have your catalogs, which you can segregate things pieces. So I have this way, and what you do is you come into your Blender preferences, and in your file paths, this you want to click add here, and you add this project or whatever the location of this file here. So what it does is inside every project, let's say I'm working on some other project, this one, if I go into in here, I have SensorProx brush library, which will have all of these. So kids, natural, super sensitive, and unicorn. And what you want to do is you want to come in here, follow preferences, you want to put it to link, and let's say I want this one, so maybe this magenta one. You come in here and drag it here, and the scale will be depending if the scale of this scene is not that much, so it will be too big, so you want to scale this down, you bring it somewhere here. Now one important thing that I want to point out for this particular scene is, because there are so many brushes and each brush has a, this hair particle system and everything, Blender will start to crash or go like non-responsive. So the way you handle that, let me come this side, is you want to come into your render properties here, and this is a very important checkbox here called simplify. Okay, and in that simplify, in viewport, I've kept the max subdivisions to 0 and child particles to 0, which what it does is, if you come in here and see, you basically don't see any hair at all on these, right? If I uncheck simplify right here, if I uncheck this, I am kind of concerned that Blender will just crash. You see how slow everything is, because each of these brushes now has all their particle systems that has to render, and at any point Blender is just gonna crash. So this checkbox is extremely important. Simplify, it allows you to move around freely. Okay, so in a scene like this where you have too many of these heavy objects, so that's how you do that. I'm going to delete that. The other scene that I worked on was the reveal scene. Let me show you that as well, if I can find it. So this scene has to that's the studio. Okay, what we've done is it's just 100 frames animation. So we have the camera here, you see there are keyframes on the camera, can you see? Yeah, so we'll jump here. So you see there are keyframes on the camera is just simply panning in, and while the camera is panning in, a few things are happening. I have this main area light here. That area light is going from 0 0 intensity to 1000 watt, because I wanted to do a reveal kind of thing. And what is adding this drama is I have this big cube here, which basically is acting like a fog to the scene. If I go into the shader here, the setup is very simple. It's a principal volume plugged into your volume of the material output, and a noise texture at 4D is controlling the density. So at 4D, because you can say hashtag frame 100, it will keep animating throughout the scene. And then what I've done is, if you see this here, it has this keyframe of the slider going from here to here. So what that does is it makes the fog go away. So if I show you from here, and if I, let's say, delete these keyframes, if it is here, the fog is going to be dense. Okay, that's why we add a color. And if we take it here, the fog is just basically going away. So I've animated this to get that kind of a reveal effect. And that is pretty much all. The brush is turning towards the camera, towards that thing, so it gives that kind of nice reveal effect. That was the second thing that I did. And what else? This scene is just a basic camera pan, and I think I've tried adding fog here as well. It didn't quite work. But okay, yeah, that, I guess that pretty much wraps up what I had to document today. Another one of those, I don't know why my morale just went super down, because I wasn't able to figure things out, but it's okay. I've basically documented what I wanted to in the session, and I was supposed to work on the podcast series that I am working on, which I couldn't work on today because there was another ad hoc video that I had to make for another of the brands, and this is something which keeps happening. In this podcast, it's like a big project with, there's so many things I've learned, both in terms of the long form podcast edit and the cut downs, which I've obviously want to document, but I'm just not being able to get to working. And so tomorrow's a holiday with the, obviously, Christmas. So I don't know if I'm going to be working. I might just work on the podcast thing because I want to end it and finish it as soon as possible. And we'll see. We'll document that on the channel, on in the code. So that is it for today's documentation. Thanks so much for being in the code. I'll catch you in my next one. Peace. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.